Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining. You've joined a Digital World Town Hall weekly meeting where we do a general report out as to the things that transpired and we accomplished last week, and then asking for feedback, thoughts, comments, direction, and reviewing general things as we move into the future. Today is, what are we at? September 23rd in this beautiful year of 2023 or 2025. Sorry. Um, so we'll do a quick report out and then we'll have question and answer. We do have a live audience here with us. So for those of you that want to say boo, they're from all around the world. We have a new visitor here from Norway, which is like 2:30 in the morning for him, 2:30 a.m. in Norway, and then all around. So we'll have folks from New Zealand, from Canada, from Australia, all around. We're just grateful for those that join and just participate, not only in helping to advance the digital world, but for caring about the future and for doing something about what we can at least control. So grateful to be able to have them involved. Where are we at? Let's see. Oh, we're actually up here. And we're also grateful for those co-hosts. Wally, thank you for all that you do and stand for, and for always just being there. Appreciate it. We're going to get started. Victoria is actually going to offer us a prayer because we recognize that there definitely is a spiritual element to not only life, but to the work that we're focused on and enabling this digital layer. It's something that is very real. Most folks may not understand it, but just like all of us, we're connecting physically, whereas usually we're used to connecting digitally, and the governance systems and the reality physically has been derived and created for years and years and centuries and even longer than that. But digitally, it's something new. It's something that's actually transpired really in the lifetime of most of us that are hearing this. And so being able to do it, and we believe, creating things usually happens spiritually before it does physically as well as digitally. So calling upon our creator and whatever that means to each one of you, I think is always important and definitely something that we should not forget. So Victoria, if you would join us or at least kick us off, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes. Heavenly Father, we gather today as a council for Michael's Digital World. We ask for your guidance and wisdom. Please help us to listen and speak with openness and clarity, with kindness, as we work together towards a common goal, to lead with integrity and to come to conclusions together that bring forth the fruit of your will. We commit this meeting to you today. In your name we pray.
Amen. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. For some of you that may not be aware, the digital world is structured on private membership association law. And there's amazing stuff that we'll talk about that's basically connecting in things that some folks may not really want to think about, but it's very real. And I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about that before I talk about some of these actually, you know what? I'll jump in and tell you a little bit about these secret combinations. I know we have some new folks online as well as maybe new folks that are listening for the first time, but we really believe that there are actually secret combinations that are organizing together in some ways privately, in some ways publicly, and to basically control others. And we believe that that's not right. We believe that everyone should have a voice. Everyone should have the ability to choose, the ability to be accountable for their choices. And these secret combinations literally are looking to control different environments, whether they take over governments to do it, whether they take over different industries. Maybe it's finance, maybe it's pharma, maybe it's health, maybe it's media, maybe it's oil, maybe it's shipping, you name it. There's a lot of them. One of the big ones that we'll talk about today is going to be primarily around, turn that off, primarily around health. And I know this may sound really weird, but when we look at some of these players, namely these three players here today, I believe that the future is going to bring them together in a way that will actually tie to health. Ultimately, that'll be one of the big drivers, as we've seen what COVID did with health and other things. But ChatGPT connected with Oracle equals the Stargate environment connected in with the social platform, with what's going on with TikTok and or others, True Social, Facebook, X, etc. But the combination of all of these different things coming together in an environment that's wrapped around health is really going to be an interesting thing, where we connect the physical environment and the biological environment together is very it's very real and something that we need to be aware of. And as we're planning with this digital world, preparing for it so that we can actually not be a part of it if we so choose. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. I'll jump into the details of what that really means, or at least some of the details. As a matter of fact, I'll just do that real fast right now. So I'm going to play this, which hopefully our audience can hear. So here we go.
The Internet of Things is moving inside the human body. And so we are creating this Internet of Bodies, which is comprised of 3 generations of technology: body external technology, body embedded technology, and soon body melded technology. The 3rd generation is a body melded generation. This is a situation that is depicted in the Neural Lace project of Elon Musk, for example, or other cortex interface technologies where a human brain has a real-time connection to a remote machine with live updates.
With especially the rise of brain-computer interfaces and biometric sensors and so forth, it is very likely that within, say, 50 years, people will literally be part of a network. All the bodies, all the brains would be connected together to a network, and you won't be able to survive if you're disconnected from the net, because your own body parts, your own immune system perhaps depends on being constantly connected to the colony, to the network.
I don't want to keep focusing on that because there's some elements that can be pretty negative, but I think it's important for us to be aware that this is a reality. It's not just a reality that's way far in the future. As a matter of fact, some of this stuff was known long ago. For some of you, you may understand the Clear Health side of things started out, it's probably been 8 years now, with a core focus with some of the team members focusing specifically on devices that connect to the body, can actually communicate with the body in real time through yes or no questions. Those devices have full FDA approval in the United States of America, 4 or 5 different insurance companies that will pay for them. And they're focusing primarily today based around quality of health, focused on sleep and happiness. Now, what's interesting is these aren't theoretical. These things truly are connecting. And I don't want to, like the gentleman that we just heard, by the way, we believe that what we just saw is massively the secret combinations that we're talking about. Now, there's not just these companies, but these companies are going to use these types of devices to centrally control people. And we believe in the digital world that digital world.earth that we're talking about. When we say digital world, we're really talking about something that is focused on decentralized systems. So it's not all of these companies that are literally building all these systems, financial, payments, commerce, even ties to foods, etc. And then they do certain things privately, publicly, they create certain currencies. Then they basically do project finance through IMF and other organizations and push things around. That is what we're actually the counterbalance against. The centralized systems need a counterbalance that is basically decentralized systems, but decentralized systems in such a way where there really is no central element to it. And that's really what this environment is about. So how do we create it? One, then how do we give it to the world? Two, and then how do the adoption, so that the world knows that there's a choice with this craziness that's actually coming. So health, again, is going to be a core part of it. Finance will be a core part of it. Travel will be a core part of it. But the basis for all of it is identity. And so we're going to talk about how the digital world can help to create a solid, simple balance between centralized government and decentralized freedom or individuals with that identity right in the middle. And it starts with systems like this. So it's something where a private key is given to an individual that is unique to them. They link that with who they are physically, whether it's through their face, which they've already given to Apple, or whether it's through their finger, or whether it's through a passphrase. But the key is there's something that is given to them that is unique to them, combined with derived keys, which then basically creates other elements within the digital ecosystems that we're all going to be a part of in a very different way in a very short period of time. 2025, we are literally rolling these systems out. They're not hypothetical. They're not in development. Like the videos that we watched, one of them was 2018. The other one was 2021. These folks have been planning this for a very long time. This isn't hypothetical. This is reality. And if you look at just the first category here, passwords, usernames, those things back when this slide was created, which was probably 8 years ago, 7 years ago, we actually had a site that you could put in an email address and it would tell you if your password was violated. And now it's like, they're all violated. It doesn't matter if you're with Apple, if you're with Google, if you're with Microsoft, if we're with Amazon, if you're with Equifax or credit systems, banking, Wells Fargo to Bank of America to Chase, it doesn't matter. The data has basically been compromised, put out in the web, and then they centralize, or at least you can do some interesting things when you cross-pollinate that data, especially with what's happened with AI. So when you take identity and payments and layer AI on top of it, there really is no privacy from the existing centralized systems, which really are in apps and passwords and data and different systems and governments. And hopefully you can trust certain departments, et cetera. And then court systems and patent systems and trademark systems and health systems and searching what you're looking at, where your data is, what your finances are, what your credit is, any kind of apps that you're using that would triangulate those things or log into other ones. All of this stuff is being commingled, which is not, it's not like, okay, well, great. We all basically know that in the core. We may not think about what that is, or we may not think about the future around what can we do to actually be a part of a different system. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, around how the digital world can actually bridge that digital and physical environments in a very responsible way, where the individual actually owns their own identity and data. So as we do that, there's 3 key components: the individual, the keys or derived keys, and then payments. And in those layers connect into a storage environment that is owned only by that individual. That architecture layered on a lot of these systems is really where the future's at. So we're going to talk a lot about what we've basically been able to do from an exchange standpoint, phone standpoint, homes, autos, and community. So those are the areas. First off, this year so far, we've been able to stand up 7 different exchanges with different partners in different regions, whether that's the Arabian Union or the Pacific Union or the Mexican environment, which we've got some folks on from that. The Kingdom of Hawaii, that was done. Some of the ones that we're looking forward to is Aotearoa. There's been some delays by choice with that environment, but the exchanges, these are decentralized exchanges where the individuals truly own their own identity. And in some with some very key partners, like some gold exchanges with Alpine Gold Exchange, wonderful company. We really love what they're doing. Some of the gold-backed folks and others. And then we've been able to make some progress on the phones. For instance, this is actually a new model. We were hoping to be able to ship it this year. And the sad news is we're not going to be able to do that. We actually did all the prototyping. We did all the hardware. We did all the software. Well, 80% of the software. And and we just didn't get the funds to be able to go and build the next generations of phones this year. So we're going to take the technology that we've been building, which I actually think may be a beautiful blessing, because as I'm watching the competition, so you've got Apple that released their phones, you've got Google that released their phones. Why? Because this is actually the time frame that you do it. When you build phones, you build them in a year life cycle, and you either hit all the windows or you miss all the windows. But 2025 was a release cycle for the Windows. And so hopefully we can figure out why. And right now I'm looking at it and thinking, there's really not a lot of advancements that they're coming out with. The architecture, and to stay focused on the architecture and to get these exchanges and these systems out there and getting those things just truly, truly solid is really the right bets. We focused with some other folks to try and get the decentralized phones financed and procured, and it just didn't happen. So we really need to focus on the core. The home side of things, it has over 200 or 820 million in pre-orders currently. Some beautiful things happening there. We hope to give a little bit more data. The Clear Auto is actually up and live. This last week, we were able to take that site live. I'll go ahead and drop out of this. Well, I'll jump into it in a second, but that site is actually live, and the first 10 orders. And what this really is driving around private. You get your vehicle, you get your insurance, you get your registration, you get your maintenance, all of it included, but it's actually a private subscription. We're trying to get ahead of some of the centralized subscriptions and ownership systems that are going to be out there, and literally offering, whether it's how you communicate with phones, how you live and where you live with the homes, how you travel with the autos or the vehicles, and then how you transfer assets and how you basically own really your world from a material standpoint and financial standpoint, and then how you can actually transfer that to the next generation before you take your last breath, so to speak. So those are the first four. The community side of it, there's some massive value and some things that it's a little bit premature to go through, but those are the 4 areas or 5 areas that we're reporting out on. This last week, we actually met with this gentleman here. This is Scott Stornetta, wonderful man. For those of you that are not aware, a lot of people are like, who created Bitcoin? This is the actual white paper to Bitcoin. Some people think, oh, Satoshi Nakamoto, at this, by the way, there's some real interesting history around Mt. Gox and some other stuff I won't go in through right now, but this is the actual Bitcoin white paper that was released in early 2009. Talks about basic hashes, talks about how blocks get created, the network effects, so to speak, how mining basically creates the validation. And the technology behind it was actually created by some of these folks that are now coming out. And it just so happens that gentleman that I just showed you this photo of, Scott Stornetta, is actually also based here in Utah. He's a professor at a university, and 14 years prior to the Bitcoin white paper coming out, he basically talked a little bit about, or created some documents on how genealogy was documented. So how multiple newspapers, let's say newspaper A and newspaper B and newspaper C, said that this person died, that was born on this date and died on this date. And sometimes they have obituaries with some of the history, sometimes they don't. But basically, grateful for his work, his involvement, his history. This kind of talks a little bit about how things can actually get attacked when a certain node says this happened, how it can actually validate across nodes. The things that are interesting around this Bitcoin white paper is beautiful. It's a litmus test that proves that really this public key on this first page, the public key and the private key actually works when you're building on top of blocks. So you're proving things that are actually happening, so to speak. So it's a beautiful thing. But when you look at the references, so remember, this is supposed to be private. Why? Because one, they would probably be looked at as terrorists or money launderers that enabled, pimps and drugs and hoes and whatever other weird things they want to throw at it. Really, they would try and just say, hey, this isn't real. But when you look at the people that are referenced inside of it, this W.S. Stornetta is actually referenced many times. Once there, another time here, another time here. And it's basically goes back to the simple work that they're talking about within this validation, so to speak. So I had some wonderful meetings with him. And I won't even talk about some of these other folks, but there's a lot of beautiful things that are being built and moving forward. And when we look at what Bitcoin was, it was really a litmus test that proved that cryptography actually worked. And what I mean by that is it hasn't been compromised from a cryptography standpoint, maybe from a control standpoint, maybe from a hashing standpoint. But in all reality, the ability for Bitcoin to actually run transactions in real time with no fees and with a private environment, those things are not materially a reality today. So when we talk about some of the advancements, which we'll talk about, this Life coin or Life environment, which we actually this last week, we've made some massive progress on what we actually call Life Bond with a partner company that's actually a public company, wonderful company. It's 20 plus years old. They were a part of the Sundance Institute, which actually is moving from Utah over to Colorado. They're not linked to that part of it, but there were some of the original Sundance folks that actually tied to it. So Lifecoin is separate than Life Bond, but we look forward to actually providing more clarity as to what this can actually mean for the digital world. You'll start seeing some marketing efforts and some other things that will be moving forward. There's also a lot of advancements that are continuing within the Utah Life Pilot. For those of you that are not aware of what that is, I'll kind of give you a real history. So the digital world has different jurisdictions. As a matter of fact, I'll give you an image of what these jurisdictions are really fast. So some of them tied to unions. So whether it's the first one was actually Tuvalu. I'm going to talk a little bit about this one over here with Utah. But the Pacific Union is a very key environment here, as well as the Arabian Union. And then there's a lot, that we want to be able to see as far as expansion within the Americas. America is not just the United States of America, but Canada is a part of the Americas. I would even say the Mexican environment, which we'll talk a little bit about. For those that are not aware, it's a fully functional system. This system is actually ready for different parts. As a matter of fact, there's different counties within the Mexican country that are already on board with this. Not all, now I shouldn't say just counties, but there's actually states. If for you that are not aware, Mexico actually has multiple states, kind of like the United States of America has it, but there's a groundswell of individuals that are saying, hey, the government or the cartels are not caring about the people, and the people really need to stand up. And one of the reasons why Mexico is so important is when they ran elections, the last elections that they ran, there were literally 25 or 24 people that were murdered that were actually running for president at the time that they were murdered. And these types of systems brings identity and health and voting and finance and business and exchange. We'll talk a little bit about the exchange. We'll show you some of the advancements within the Utah environment, and then currency and disputes. So the point is the digital world enables all these different jurisdictions from all around the world. And one of the things that we're hopeful is to work on is within the United States of America, which I believe Utah is leading when it comes to identity. When we look at identity, they literally are paying attention to the simple things of life: a constitution, a Bill of Rights. These things are fundamental, and they've been passing laws that are consistent with those freedoms. So when we talk about this Privacy Act or the Digital Choice Act or private membership associations or currency, that with what they're doing around silver and gold, and the Constitution of Utah had it built in, but they've actually updated it with a new Currency Innovation Act, and then some amazing people that I'm just so grateful that they're doing what they're doing, paying attention to what they're paying attention to, every day making a difference within the state of Utah around privacy. This House Bill 470, which is known as the Digital Identity Act, which all of this is based on a Senate Bill 260. these environments around the individual's ability to actually own and create their identity is going to disrupt humanity. When we talk about getting those keys, linking it to who they are, then linking it to all these other assets, kind of like what we showed you right here. So you get some keys, you link them through derived keys. And what this means is machine learning and artificial intelligence can't actually follow you, but you have a system that's validating that things are happening behind the scenes, which I believe Bitcoin actually wanted to do. They just didn't have the maturity from a technological standpoint, from an adoption standpoint. And now you look at it and it's like, okay, the world has actually said Bitcoin, well, they've said it with almost $3 trillion worth of value, well, in most of the crypto environments, of assets being shifted into it. What that represents is still only about 6% of the world as far as awareness and adoption from those keys. So when we talk about it, Bitcoin works off of a very similar principle. They don't have words. They have a key, and that key is the same thing that these words are. They basically just, they use a simple form of cryptography to convert them. So every key, those graphs, those long words, so to speak, or they're not words, but a cryptographic key basically is derived into these words, and that's how us humans are basically using them. Now, what if we lose the keys? What if XYZ happens? Those types of scenarios, we're going to tell you a little bit about some of the advancements that we're working on in some of the future meetings, probably 2 meetings from now. But there's a lot of advancements that are happening, and that will go hand in hand with the Lifecoin and other environments. So we look forward to being involved in that. I'm going to show you real time what this actually, how it actually works. I'm going to go ahead and log out for those of you that may have not actually said, well, I don't understand what you're talking about. This is all new. Because a lot of people are like, this just doesn't make sense until they actually see it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real fast. I'm actually going to open up an app. This works on almost any device. So whether you're talking about Apple or Android or Clear, it literally works on almost any device globally. I'm going to try and just refresh. Come back over here, say login. So the Life app is available all around the world. I'm going to go ahead and click on and kind of show you all the different versions of it that's currently out. So from a global standpoint, these are some of the unions. So the Arabian Union and the Pacific Union and the Americas Union are really the ones that are currently live. There's a couple of them, the African Union. There's actually one jurisdiction that's completely live already. That is Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is actually where the African Union is based. And just like we're logging into these systems, this environment also logs in. So it's very, it's cross-platform. It doesn't matter where you're at in the world. But when you download one of these apps, for instance, the regional apps, they will have the currency that is in that jurisdiction as the base currency. It'll be probably not probably, it will be a digital representation of that. So for instance, the Canadian dollar, the digital Canadian dollar, the digital Mexican peso, you know, the digital USD, these dollars basically represent, for instance, you know, there's a digital version of this as well. So if you download a regional wallet, you're going to get a different base asset. And for instance, like within the Arabian Union here, I'll tell you all the different assets that are in that environment. So these are most of them. There's 22 different currencies or partners there. Today, there's actually only 20 that are actually deployed, but we're working on the second, the last 2 of them as well. So you can kind of see within that environment, there's multiple different assets and multiple different partners, multiple different regions. But the point being is, in the Americas, in the Pacific, in the Arabian, those are the environments, and I should say Africa, but they're literally very serious about becoming deeply involved in this, where there's different regions, There's local environments in the United States of America. Most of those local things are states. And actually with the physical dollars, we've been able, when I say physical dollars, I'll pull open, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is actually the last state, which is Oklahoma, which actually has, when you get the digital dollars, there's physical dollars that go with that. So this is an example of the physical dollars. So it's not just paper money. This is actually real 24 karat gold. And I'll actually look up real time once I log in over here. I'll look up what that's actually worth. So when we look at the different environments, you basically pick what region of the world you're in, maybe what state you're in, what platform you're on. Maybe it's Apple, maybe it's Android, maybe it's Clear. By the way, this last week, there was a digital wallet that went live within the Apple environment. So there's a lot of different Apple wallets. They're all based upon this term called life, because it's all about life. It's not about, for instance, inside of the Bitcoin white paper, they talk about proof of work, how a CPU, or they went to a GPU or an APU, can basically generate the answer to a complicated question. And as it's doing it, it's using up power, which is what they call proof of work. And so people have to pay for the power. They put money into it, and they buy what they now call an asynchronous miner that's only for that calculation. So originally, like I remember doing it back on laptops, like literally I've got laptops, and as a matter of fact, I should probably pull some of them out. But what I'm trying to articulate is it's not about proof of work anymore. It's about proof of life. And these life apps can basically start proving through some of the things that we're going to talk about around this life paper, which I'm not going to go through today. But it is amazing, it's beautiful, and it's making massive progress. And we've actually consummated or completed some key relationships that'll actually help facilitate this and bring it forward. So those are some of the things there. I'm actually going to blow this away and just jump right through this one here. So I am grabbing a phone, I'm grabbing a life app, I'm scanning this, and I'm logging in securely. And for those of you that are looking at it, you're thinking, well, how can he do this with all these people? Or how can someone else do it on his computer and all of it be secure? So literally, think about it this way. I didn't use a username. I didn't put in a password. I didn't log into someone else's data per se. This is data that's unique to this profile that logged in. And there's actually multiple wallets, multiple businesses, tons of different things that are complex. So I'm going to click on a different view. I'm going to click on a view that tells you about assets within this particular environment. So you can see, accounts, and I'll go through what those could be. As a matter of fact, I'll show you a fully filled out one so you can kind of understand it a little bit better. So what you're looking at here is, accounts, maybe bank accounts, maybe savings accounts, in the typical world, the fiat world, and then maybe assets, and then maybe currencies. So these are digital currencies. All of this is digital assets in the digital world in a particular jurisdiction. This particular jurisdiction's within the Utah environment. And then you've got equities, commodities, cryptos, rewards, and bonds. In some of the things that you'll see in the future, you've actually got companies as well as contacts that will actually be able to be sent assets. I'll show you an example of what I mean by that. So let's say in the Kingdom of Hawaii, you've got this, which most people don't understand, but the Kingdom of Hawaii actually had the Hawaiian dollar before the Americans came in and said, you'll use the US dollar. So let's say this dollar, you want to convert those into a digital representation of a gold asset, like this dollar. Okay, this is a gold dollar, not a paper dollar. So just going to drag and drop it. It's going to say, how many do you want? I'm just going to give you an example here. Okay, and then it's going to say swap it. So a dollar for a dollar. We're going to go ahead and jump in. So you can see here, this is giving you a summary. Okay, there's no fees on this. So for those of you that are used to trading digital assets or stocks or bonds. There's no fees on this. It's in real time with no fees. When you really understand what that means, it's disruptive, massively, massively disruptive. So this is one exchange, which there's multiple. You can see you're going to go from $1 to the digital USD to the representation for what this is actually. So instead of in the United States of America, they have paper money, and then they have what they call USD. And they're basically created from two different entities. People don't realize this, but the money creation and money issuance is all different. And when you start understanding, well, how's it different and what's the difference? And anyways, I'm going to go ahead and push this button. I'm going to say scan so you can kind of see how it'll actually scan and transfer. It's asking for my fingerprint because the way that I verify physically is with my fingerprint. Why? Because my fingerprint stays local to the phone and an encrypting enclave because this is a clear phone. Okay, so clear phones actually are very, very secure when you're talking about it from a physical. You can see this transaction actually consummated. So we're going to go back over here and we're going to see that the asset actually went from $1 to a digital gold-backed dollar. Okay. Now you can do it in multiple different ways. So let's say we want to take that digital gold-backed dollar and buy digital Bitcoin. So what we're looking at here, this Bitcoin, the old Bitcoin, takes about 10 minutes for full settlement. And it's actually really not private nowadays when you have the Lightning Network layered onto it. So some of the governments that actually deployed this, they did it in such a way where they really violated the privacy of their citizens or members or nationals or however you want to call it. So what we're looking at here is the transfer between goldbacks or digital goldbacks and Bitcoin or BTC or the real-time private version of Bitcoin as DBTC. We're going to do it using DUSD as a medium of measurement because neither one of these are actually based upon that, but it's going to flow through there. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and scan that. And what's cool is anybody on this thing can actually, you can try and scan it all you want, but it's built in such a way where the cryptography is actually unique to the individual, tied to the 5-factor authentication where we originally logged in. So we're going to come back. You can see that second transaction actually transpired. So in other words, currencies, equities, commodities, cryptos, rewards, bonds. Let's say I want to add other assets to it. I can add, other types of assets and then interchange between them and in a real-time interface actually see what actually has a trading pair with other assets. Now, what's unique about this is I, as the individual, am the only one that have access to this, right? You, as the individual, would have access to yours. Like literally, I could log out of this environment. I could ask somebody to actually scan a login. We could log into their assets, and we can send not only their assets from different types or classes or categories for their own assets. Like imagine if you actually had a home or a car and you knew what you owed on it and you knew what it was worth in real time, and you wanted to take equity from that car and maybe convert it into a certain type of coin or turn it into dollars. Think about it's like taking a automobile equity line of credit real time, right? Or maybe you want to take it and you want to convert it into dollars and send it to somebody else all in real time. If you really are understanding what you can see here is not just your assets and the value of it as it fluctuates, but all classes of assets, and then transferring them from different asset classes to different businesses or trusts or individuals, but the individual owns their own keys. That's massive. It's just massive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here. I'm going to turn the time over for any kind of Q&A for our live audience and just pause for where we are for a second. Any thoughts?
This is George.
Hi, George. Welcome, buddy. Long time no talk.
Great. Listen, that looks very good. Now, does he have like all the stock exchange on them, like New York Stock Exchange, the Shenzhen Stock Exchange, all those there on this panel?
So this is actually a private exchange that the individual owns their own assets and data on. We're getting some feedback, George.
Okay.
But what I'm going to show you is this is actually a holdings company, okay? George, we're getting some feedback, buddy.
I'm listening. So who company?
We're getting some. This is a holding company. So this is
Okay.
this is called Clear Holdings, which has gone live within the last 90 days. And Clear Holdings actually owns 10 to 19% of each of the Clear companies, which are focused on decentralized systems that enable a lot of these environments. Okay. So these are some of the companies. Some are current, some have products, some have revenue, some are profitable, some are still in the development stages. Some of them actually have major, like one, well, I won't even go through that, but basically these different companies are actually going to focus on making a run at going public through this Clear Holdings environment. And the public nature of it will actually, and this is the goal, is to actually list on a real exchange like the NASDAQ. Now, when I say a real exchange, I'm talking a public exchange. But in all reality, public exchanges are centralized. Decentralized exchanges are private. So they're basically the opposite. So I'll say that again. I'll say it backwards though. You've got private companies that are decentralized, not just companies, private entities that are decentralized versus public entities that are centralized. So we're creating the counterbalance to those environments. Some of the things that are actually going to be a reality here is instead of in the public markets, like what NASDAQ does, they allow shorting, which basically says, we're not just going to bet that it's going to go from $3 to $7 up. We're going to bet that it's going to go from $3 to $1. And they profit when it goes down. And that's fine. But when the risk isn't fair or balanced, for instance, if they say, we're not going to bet something that we actually own, so even if it goes down or up, they win. That's called naked short selling. And the public
One more
markets.
thing.
Go ahead.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
Go ahead, bud. The public
Yeah,
markets.
one more thing.
Go ahead.
Elon Musk went on public with his tiny homes. I was so upset when I saw that. I'm like, my goodness, man, Michael have that same idea. We're not even going public yet. So what's going on in that department?
So on the home side of it, we're actually working with some folks that are building out the Clear Homes. They've taken a ton of orders, $820 million worth of orders with these different models. Some are based on Utah design. Some are based on Hawaiian design. For instance, this home is 3,000 square feet. You can also find that same home. The constructs is all the same. So this is actually the same, panels and SIP panels and rails. You can see the rails inside the system. It's basically all run the same way. In my opinion, the team that is behind this technology, once the factory is built and some of these products are actually shipped, the stuff that Elon is doing is they're very different categories. The stuff that Elon is doing is going to build low-end homes that are temporary and not something that people want to actually enjoy and live in, even though he's doing it, which there's nothing, I'm not saying anything negative about Elon, but the real target, in my opinion, of what he's building is for Mars. So when you look at the homes, when you look at the robots, when you look at what he's doing with the rockets, when you look at even what he's doing with the trucks and the vehicles, these are built to go to Mars. And hats off to him, massive hats off to him. Nothing but respect.
But I was sitting in a meeting with a friend of mine talking about some investments, and the commercial came on. It's Elon Musk. Tiny homes are available at the low price of $7,000 and some odd dollars. I'm thinking to myself, I just want to see my friend, other investor. I'm saying my buddy Michael has the same thing going.
Well, they're very different. They're actually very, very different than what he's building. This is the lowest end model. This is 450 square feet. And it costs to actually ship this product per square foot is about $250 per square foot. So it's not that expensive, but it's also doesn't hit the price point that Elon's, one of the companies he invested in basically is doing. It's a very different product. It's a very different environment. These homes can be unconstructed, just like the Elon's homes, but these homes are really built for a very different quality. So that $250 per square foot isn't just the power and the water and the sewage inside of these SIP panels, but it actually comes with the beds. It literally comes with everything but the sheet, so to speak. So
Okay. So what are you guys gonna be ready for the New York market, like to take at least some kind of orders?
I believe there's actually orders in the East Coast that have already been taken. There's nothing stopping it. There's some unique
Okay.
models that may be better for that environment. These things have an R factor of about 50, so they're very well insulated. So in the summers when it gets hot or in the winters when it gets cold, there's still comfort inside. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So all a person got to do is buy the land, get the permit from the government, and here comes the clear homes, correct?
You got it. There's another layer to it as well. You actually need to build a foundation, whether it's with wood or with cement. And there's some details around how you do that. And then you have certain little sewage as well as power, as well as water hookups that come in.
Okay.
So you basically are said, hey, this is how much space. So for instance, this home itself, this actually.
I'm gonna email you tomorrow.
All right. Just
All right,
know
thanks
that.
so much.
Yeah, that's fine. No, please do send it out and let's see if we can make that become a reality. It's good to hear from you, George.
Now, you too, buddy. Now the phones. You said we have a new model of clear phones.
There's just new software updates. There's no new hardware models that are actually coming out. We actually announced that we're going to push them till 2026.
Oh, okay. All right, buddy. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks for joining. Other questions, thoughts, comments, feedback, criticism, tomatoes, you want to throw them? Anybody
Michael,
else?
when you did the swap from, I think it was dollar to the digital go back, did I see that, does it go from dollar to DUSD and then digital go back?
Yeah, and
right?
that's, yes, very good observation. In that particular trade, so let's go here. We'll see if it actually, we'll see what it trades through.
I wasn't sure if I saw that correctly.
Yeah, so dollar to DUSD to D Goldback or DGBX. Yep.
Okay. That's what I thought.
And we're
Okay.
going to see some beautiful things in the future. Hopefully, some of the stuff with Alpine Gold Exchange, which they have a different, they're actually, it's going to be equal. The assets over here are going to be the same, but they're actually going to be involved in it in a very different way. So you wouldn't even need the DUSD in the middle of it. That's the goal of actually where this is going to go. They do charge the transfer side of it. There wouldn't be any kind of, well, I can't say what they're going to charge, but anyways, so the simple response is yes, that particular transaction does go through those assets.
And all the digital assets are backed by real assets?
Yeah. That's the difference between the typical crypto environments and what you're seeing here is we're getting some feedback from somebody. I don't know if, let's see if, well, it's gone now. So, but yes, the simple answer is yes. This environment actually has real world backing with the actual assets. And so the treasury, the people, the structure, we're taking a very methodical approach to make sure that trading pairs and assets can only exchange with other things that are real assets. So not only is it analyzing the assets that are in the system. So let's say that someone creates a vehicle. So they say, you know what? I bought this truck. I owe this amount on it. I have this much in equity. None of those are verified, right? But they create them. Can that transfer with DUSD or with other assets? The answer is no. But assets that are actually validated inside the system that have real trading pairs, it's because there's actually a price on the other side of it. I'll show you an example. We'll jump into this little dollar here. So I'm going to pull open. I'll grab this 1/100th or 1/10th of an ounce of gold. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on this. I'm going to look at details and I'm going to look at what the price is today. So today, this particular dollar is worth $742 US. Okay.
Okay.
So, but you can see October 24th or October 2nd it was worth $5.34.
Okay.
Okay. So you can basically see the real-time value of what this is based upon people that are buying and selling different quantities at different prices. And these are decentralized people. So they're private. They've used their identity linked with these keys. And then if they want to, they can validate some other things, which I won't get into in this particular meeting, but you can validate the identity, you can validate the asset, you can transfer the asset, and the individual owns them on their own. And then you can layer real intelligence into how these things actually get managed from generation to generation, which is a whole nother conversation, which I'm excited to go through. But, and it just so happens we're actually building out. By the way, this last week, we submitted, the Clear Foundation actually submitted to the Glyph environment, which is an international body around finances, this guardian signature structure, which basically says if grandma has a fake granddaughter that calls them and says, I'm 15, grandma, and I was driving and I hit somebody and they want to put me in jail and I need $7,200 to make sure. And then an attorney interrupts her, gets on the phone and says, oh, you can just send $5,200 today, but it has to be today. And then the grandma says, okay, I'll go ahead and send it. And the granddaughter's like, I was 15. I don't want you to tell my mom and dad that I was driving. That is a $10 billion issue that's currently going on with AI and grandparents. It's based. And so this actual potential solution here would actually help solve that, this grandparent scam. And I won't play the videos right now, but what I'm saying is we're working with different organizations. Hopefully we're going to actually do this as a presentation within the state of Utah. I'm going to actually pull open UVU.
The summit, you mean?
Yeah. So this summit, we're actually going to do a keynote presentation around how the state endorsed identity with the state of Utah can actually help to validate and endorse an identity in a scenario like that, which is a whole nother conversation. This is the same UVU that Charlie Kirk was shot in. And let rest, I don't know if today's what, Tuesday, and Sunday is when they had his burial service. Amazing. Just
The memorial, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
over 100 million people tuned into that, and over 100,000 people showed up for it. And he's a wonderful, just an amazing man. As a matter of fact, I'll jump through some of the photos of this last week. This is actually a gentleman that we hope to work with, Mr. Levy, not Jimmy Levy, but Simon Levy, on the Mexican environment. This is a gentleman that we hope to work with on really the future of food. Whole nother conversation. If you were paying attention the last week, you got a little bit of contents there. This is actually Scott, who's actually mentioned most in the Bitcoin white paper. This was a meeting around how identities can actually be validated and verified. And when we talk about a lot of the stuff we're talking about today, imagine all of this linking together. So I found this interesting. This was the first time, I don't even know in how many years, I walked the dog with one of my sons, my second oldest son. We just literally went and walked the dog. And I find this kid laying on the ground with his phone hooked up to power. And it's like, this is the generation. It's just, we gotta balance out the digital realities. What we're looking at here, this is actually the father or purported father of the individual that's a suspect. I don't know what's right. This whole Charlie Kirk thing, there's so many weird things that are within it. But my point is it doesn't matter. The reality is the generations that is currently growing, and we're parents or grandparents over, the responsibility that we have to them to provide them true and correct principles and then let them govern themselves is really, really important. And parents don't have the tools to really be guardians. They don't have the tools to say, you're not going to shoot something 100 times today. or you're not going to look at that content that will change your perception or pervert your perception of reality. Or, the point is the technology's there. It's how do we actually come together as humanity so that we can actually build this in a very responsible way. So these are some of the things that went down this last week. The buying power of the dollar, it's like since 1971, it's 98% gone. Like, it's just crazy. It's sad, actually. Yeah, so I won't keep going on there. But did that answer your question around the transfer? Is there any other thoughts or questions that anybody else has? Observations, feedback?
I have a lot of questions.
Welcome, Daniel from Norway. This is your first call, and we're grateful to have you. Go ahead with your questions, bud.
Yeah. First of all, was a lot of people in Norway that was joining the memorial of Charlie Kirk. So it was really sad, but at the same time, it was inspiring that so many people were actually aware of him. And yeah, so it's there's been a lot of postings on Facebook and everywhere about his speeches through the years.
I've met him a couple times. I've never met his wife, but I'll tell you, her speech and her forgiveness.
Breathtaking. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
So, other thoughts or comments, Daniel?
Yeah, I wonder. I have an Android, so I downloaded the Life app and the Life Wallet. But the Life Wallet is that a digital wallet? You can have different coins, or it's not available for Androids? It's not functional. I don't know.
The one for. Oh, it's going to log me in here. I don't want to do that. The one for the Clear phones, you can have other assets inside of, such as native Bitcoin or native Ethereum assets. But the real goal is to create these in such an environment where when you look at these types of assets, and I'm going to show a different view here real fast. So when you look at these types of assets, the assets are actually real. And so you don't have the same kind of funny business with NFTs or memes or just fictitious projects. These is like, okay, Bitcoin has been a good litmus test, and Ethereum and Solana and Ripple and all these others, they've proved their points, but they're not really focusing on the real world problems that humanity has to be able to own their own assets from owning their own identity. So if you own your own identity and then you roll your own assets into it, it's a whole nother category. So, but go ahead.
Yes, yes. We are into this exchange. Are there an exchange that you can really trade, or I'm subscribed to this TradingView, the world biggest chart service, I think. So can you find any of this on this charts?
There is going to be, when we look at this system here, there is some linkage in the back end that ties to existing fair market value assets that you're already familiar with. Here, I'll pull up, the world's familiar with Bitcoin. So this is basically the same type of volume and transactions that Bitcoin has. But what we're doing is you basically come out of the BTC environment that's slow and it's not private to an environment that is fast, real time, no fees, no delays, and it's private. So that's really the difference. Can you exchange these with other assets on other exchanges? You can go back out of DBTC back to BTC and then go wherever you want. But the goal of these systems are to be truly responsible, truly around the individual, truly decentralized, and with technology that can span from one generation to the next and last a millennium. That's the goal.
Mm.
I'm going to tell,
Okay.
you know, I haven't actually gone through with this body and told you why and who and how and the history. But what I'm going to show you here is what we call the Universal Genealogical Standard, or UGS. There's some amazing people that were involved in it. A solid history. This was actually created in 2018. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit. And it talks about different archetypes. It talks about the overview. It talks about linking up an identity layer with a transaction layer, which is what the world's used to when you talk about Ripple or Solana or other assets that are actually focused on transactions. And then there's a storage layer. So this is actually really, these are the outcomes when we look at this. So open source, open standards. You know, you've got identity at the core of it. You've got decentralized storage combined with encryption keys that ties to identity. You can do large files, small files. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't hurt the user. But imagine apps like on the Clear phone. This particular phone has 16 different apps that are built into it. And like imagine the contacts app. Like I can actually have in my own storage my own contacts with my own data fields that may be unique to me. And you can do things that are very unique, especially when you start talking about cryptographic contacts. And I'll give you an example. So let's say I wanted to take, I'm going to jump to a different view here. Let's say I wanted to take some equity out of a truck and send it to somebody. Or simple, I want to take DUSD and send it to somebody. And then they want to use a card, kind of like what I've got in my pocket here. So this card is actually wired up to cryptographic assets. And you can basically take it and then put it in an ATM and pull out cash in whatever currency you want. You know, pound, renminbi, mark, yen, dollars in the US, etc. Or you can swipe it and purchase what you want, and those currency exchanges will transfer. Now, the issue is when you go into the fiat system or the credit system or the Visa system, it doesn't matter if it's American Express or MasterCard, any of the rails on the banking system, you're going to have a fee and you're going to have, the merchants are going to have a delay. Within this environment, that does not happen. Very, very massive. So, but the real key is if I've got decentralized storage and I've got decentralized contacts, I can send them things and the rest of the world can see the transaction, but they don't actually know who I sent it to, but I do. And if I ever want to run a report or if I want to do my own accounting with a click of a button, because once these transactions, and this is why this is going to be so real, everything that happens on these ledgers with these private identities is basically going to have accounting and reporting and auditing all built into it, as well as forensic systems. So when we look at the digital world, you have these different services and forensics linked to contacts, links to transactions, linked to reputation. All of this stuff is going to be tightly integrated. I won't go through the details of how watchers and listeners and witnesses all basically enable that, but it's all very, very integral and disruptive for the future. One thing I will mention before I forget it, especially, I mean, we've got people on this call from all around the world, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6, maybe 7 different countries. And as a reminder, now's the time to reserve a spot. We usually go to 2 different places in the world and we just enjoy time together. We have, one of the first events that we did an event where we had scavenger hunts and we went out and actually used these things in commerce. Here, I'll jump down to the bottom and show you. So imagine we go into port and these are the shops that'll actually accept these types of transactions. Why? Because it's going to bring customers in. It's going to bring commerce in. It's going to bring transactions in. And then at the end of it, you basically get, every time you touch one of these stores, you get the ability to actually win a node. which is part of the actual storage environment that helps run this. So it's about proof of life and storage, not proof of space or proof of work based upon the existing systems, because proof of work just builds a hash that's a math question that adds no value to humanity. The digital world builds proof of life that proves who the individual is, validates them, and enables this new beautiful thing that I believe that Utah is going to massively disrupt around endorsements. And then not only are they proving their life, but then the storage side of it actually ties together. So the point is we're going to come together. We're going to share, sunrises, sunsets, some good food, lots of different, I don't personally drink, but, and if you want to enjoy that or different, we'll have a couple stages, activities, spas. And for those that, those that really want to be a part of this and are kind of like yourself, it's like, I want to understand it. I want to get in the middle of it. I want to see the transactions and I want to build relationships and I want to actually enjoy life at the same time. This is really an opportunity to do this. So 11 days, 8 ports. You can see, it's basically between Australia and New Zealand. And then you actually, it's $1,700, $1,800 US or USD per person. And that comes with a $1,200 phone. So everybody that's actually doing it, you've got to have all this stuff set up. Now you can use your own phones, but you basically get the combination of the two. So now's the time to make the reservations. If you want to join, let us know. There'll actually be, this is actually a link that you can go through. But anyways, I hope that before I forget, I just wanted to mention that. So other thoughts or comments or questions?
I have a question about the structure of the internet. I think internet can you make things that's not what do you call the combination of private and the military, for example. They have the overview of the internet and the structure of it. So can you get totally private, or it's a kind of privacy?
I actually believe that the internet that we use today with the protocol of HTTP, so hypertext protocol, or HTTPS, the S is secure socket layer on top of a higher text protocol, is actually very insecure. The whole thing, the way that it works was built from the ground up as insecure. SSL or secure socket layer actually uses encryption with private public keys. So you've got a private key and a public key, but it doesn't do the same thing that this system does based upon Sam Smith's key rotation and architecture and Cary and AC/DC and some of the beautiful things that he's done. I believe that not only can the architecture do what we're talking about around identity, but it can actually do it to the browser and the protocol within the browser around DNS, around name resolution, all of it. It can literally solve it all. And I believe in our lifetime, that will actually happen, which is a whole nother conversation. Today, there's nothing that we can do about that. I believe that we can do certain things inside of it. So here, I'll give you an example. So when we were looking at Mr. Stornetta, I'll try and pull this back up again. When we were looking at what he's doing here, these individuals, I don't know that I can zoom in, maybe a little bit. These individuals are actually in a YouTube video, and you can actually validate that they're real humans, okay? Or another example is this is actually an article that's created, and you can actually validate that the individual actually created it. So you're going to need these types of technologies. The issue is it's actually running on the same hypertext or HTTP type environments that the normal browsers run on, but there's a layer inside of that, just like how SSL certificates work within a browser. So for instance, this browser here that I'm using is actually not anything that most people have used. It's actually ClearWeb. I don't know if you can see this, but this is ClearWeb. And this ClearWeb browser actually can have unique plugins like what we're seeing over here to actually be able to do that secure environment. Now, it just so happens we build ClearWeb for phones and for devices, PCs, computers. Now, that same type of thing that we saw with Mr. Stornetta here actually can happen within the Clear browsers. So this Clear web browser, that's how we're able to play videos and let the whole world see and even stream it. Most people are like, what are you talking about? But for instance, these SSL certs, for instance, if you want to do anything in China, you literally have to have the SSL, the main provider of the SSL certs actually give the master private key that then can actually de-encrypt the other keys. That's one of the biggest things around the key architecture within the digital world. And what I'll do is I'll show you an example. I'm just going to go to digitalworld.earth. I'm going to scroll down about 75% down through the page and look at this system here. So this is actually a comparison that was done by a university out of Arizona. And what they basically compared, oops, it'll take a second. What they compared was this key management, key identity, the individual management, because once you manage the keys, then the individuals and organizations and many other things can basically be managed on top of that, including payments and etc. But this is basically the digital world and how it actually compares with other chains, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and we're not talking speed, we're not talking costs. You know, I can actually pull that up if you want to see it. The speed and the cost is very telling when we look at it, because the digital world really has no delays, 3 to 5 seconds, full settlement. And then it really has no costs, whether it's on the exchanges or in the transactions. There's really no cost to actually doing the mining because it's tied primarily to that proof of life. So I'm going to walk through this real fast for those of you that may not have seen this. Bitcoin takes about 10 minutes to do full settlement. Ethereum takes about 3 minutes to do full settlement unless you want to pay gas. So you pay an additional fee and then it goes through faster. Visa, everybody thinks it takes about 3 to 5 seconds. It doesn't. For full settlement and actually payment, it could take 2 days, literally. And what's crazy is when you compare the price, the average cost. Now this is looking at, this was done back in, what year was this? In 2019, okay? So 2019, they looked at the average transactions for Visa in a day was about $14 billion US dollars. So we looked at about moving about 14 billion across all platforms. And the average cost within the Bitcoin mining environment was only $2,300, which is beautiful. I mean, the methodology and technology within Bitcoin is absolutely amazing. The problem is it's too slow to run an environment on.
Is it possible to move your picture up in the right corner so you can see the column of digital world?
If you use the actual thing that here, I'll go ahead and trash it over here. You're logged in on one of the social channels is what you're doing, but that's fine. That's no worries. Let's go ahead.
Yeah.
No
Yes,
worries.
I have Facebook on my computer.
Yeah, if you use
on
the other
on the phone.
here, I don't know how to. Let's see here. Oops, no, I don't want to do that. Let's see. How do I get rid of this thing?
Sorry.
Uh,
Digital world. So, phone cruise, are there any videos or manual or something for this exchange to dive
No,
into?
no, there's no,
That's the-
this is just barely coming out. There's no documentation or training videos on this. There are a lot. If you go to clear.support, there are a lot of videos that are here. You know, if you want to get a Clear phone, those are the simple steps to get going. If you want to get, you know, different phones, if you want to, let's see, the videos should be much higher than this. Where are the videos? Wally, can you help me know where the videos are? Probably come. Wally, this thing should have tons of videos. Like
The videos are on the play buttons. If you go back to getting started.
oh, right here. Getting started. Okay. Oh, right here. So these are okay, but we have a lot more videos than this, right?
These are just the getting started videos.
Okay. Yeah, we should probably put all the videos. Like there's a ton of different videos that are out there. Like all of these, right? So anyways, we can talk about that. But these are, I think they're, well, maybe they're not. Maybe there's combinations. These are some other how-tos. But these are, you know, we'll continue to build more content and make it easy and usable. And, you know, so I hope that answers your question to the best I can.
Yeah, I was interested in studying this the exchange and this digital dollar and digital Bitcoin stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be a whole future here. This is, in my opinion, this is how the future markets will do trading and how assets will be managed and how custodian, because you're going to stop the naked short selling, which is going to make the Wall Streets of the world honest again, because they're just not. They're just absolutely not, you know, and most people don't know enough to actually say, hey, that's not right because you don't have the asset. You're betting that it's going to go down. And if it doesn't, you don't lose anything. So it's you know, I lose, you win, so to speak, or I win, heads you win, lose, tails you lose, or heads you win. I don't know how the phrase goes, but you know what I'm trying to say. Let's see if we flip.
You know,
heads
the
I
biggest
win, tails you lose.
millionaires in the world has done it with short selling.
Yeah. Now it's time for that to stop. It's time for truth and honesty and transparency to be realized. 16 years we've been working on this. One of the best kept secrets on the globe. And, you know, this beautiful audience gets to see it today. We usually only go an hour. We're actually at 2 hours now. So instead of another question, Daniel, what do you think about saying a prayer for us and wrapping us up so we can go home and we'll see each other next week? How does that sound?
Oh, that's very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's all you.
I get really more informed tonight, so I'm blessed.
Well, thank you for staying up until 2 or 3 or now 3. I don't know.
It's 4 o'clock now.
4 in the
4
morning.
so.
Yeah, wow.
I told my friends don't call me before lunch tomorrow.
Well, thank you for. I don't know about you, but I can work like 18, 20-hour days, but from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I need to be sleeping. So thank you for being awake. And maybe you could just say a closing prayer and you know, maybe it could be your bedtime prayer at the same time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's all you. Here we go.
Oh, we thank you, Father, for this opportunity to join with great people. Thank you, Father, for the blessing from you that we are in need of every day. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for everything you give, every opportunity that's born from your heart. Let us embrace everything you have for us so we can be a blessing. And you have the great plans for everyone that's on this call. and everyone is listening. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen. We'll see everyone next week, same time, same channel, whatever social platform you're on. Have a wonderful evening or day or morning. And thanks again for just hanging out with us, even though it's the middle of your morning. So we'll talk to everyone later and we'll see you soon. Kia ora.